Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello, everybody. My name is Min, and you listen to the SDA Housing Podcast. Australia explains, highlights, guides, and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing NDIS world. Today, we have a special guest speaker, Luke Kelleher. Luke, how are you?
Very good, thanks, Min. How about yourself?
Good, thank you. Mate, you're based in Perth, WA, is that right?
I used to be. I'm born and bred Perth, but the last 10 months I've been living in Sydney.
Oh, wow. Why the move over to Sydney?
It was more a wife initiative. She's got approached for a job over here for a new startup that we thought we're relatively young, kids are relatively young, let's make the move and do that. And it sort of worked in pretty well with my work being over this side, so it was worked out, pretty well in the end.
Mate, we only gave you business because we thought a poor guy in Perth needed some business. The big smile, don't have to give you any more business anymore, mate. All good.
Well, hopefully if the wife's and kicks off, then I can just kick back in the Bahamas somewhere.
Mate, can you please tell us who you are, what you do, and your background? What would be your background first, and then how you ended up in this space as a designer in the NDIS world? Yeah, please.
Sure. So my background's been in design. I've been designing homes through design, working drawings, drafting, all that comes with it for about the last 20 odd years. Through that, I've worked with anything from project homes to architects, to structural engineers, working on a range of projects. So I started doing working drawings, moved into design, and I've been doing that for a long time now. And then the last year and a half-ish, moved into doing SDA designing and consulting through there. So that's pretty much the background of work-wise with design.
Luke, can I ask you why you jumped into the SDA world?
It was... I'm trying to think why. I was chatting to someone about it in Perth. We worked together, and I was looking into the different space with a little bit of the sales background I've done as well, and I was quite interested in it. There are a few different reasons, more because I like a bit of a challenge. I like the way it sort of presented itself for investment companies that I worked with. They were really much the two main ones, and since I've sort of started, it's been probably taken over a lot more of my time and focus than everything else has, which has been a good thing.
Well, that's good. Did you find that you had to do a lot more learning with the SDA build design guidelines and what builders are willing to do and not do when it comes to putting together product in?
Yeah, a heap, a lot. I can still remember it when I sort of sat down and said, all right, this is what I'm going to have a crack at and try it doing. So I sat down with the design guidelines and I'm going to sort of try to draw my first house. So it was an improved livability home, which was the first one. And then I moved on to a high physical support. What usually would have taken me to do a house of that size, that time, just for a standard house, probably would have taken me for the design a couple hours. This took me about a day and a half, just going through and making sure the guidelines were correct with the doors and the turning circles and all that. So it was a bit of an eye-opener. But ever since then, you sort of get the basics of that, and that sort of turns into a house. So you can cut and paste a few things, but a lot of it is, depending on the block, can be quite bespoke in making it all work. But it was a big learning curve in making all that work, and especially working with assessors and SDA providers to make sure what you actually is drawing is what is needed out there in the real world. Definitely a big learning curve.
Have you been caught out with errors by the assessors in your designs?
At the early stage, the only really thing that I can sort of think of that got caught out was circulation spaces from doorways, just having the space from the edge of the door to the wall. I got caught out with that a few times. I was a couple 100 mil out, but then I just was able to move a wall and make it work. But other than that, nothing major. I did have a little bit of a head start because I had worked for an architect doing some commercial drawings, so some cafes and restaurants. So I sort of had an idea on disabled toilets and ambulant toilets, which sort of help put into this space as well.
Yeah, gotcha. So when you work with builders, do they often try and keep the work in-house with their own internal designers, or they're open to a specialist designer working with them to educate their team to deliver more bespoke product like this? Yeah.
They've been quite open. The ones that I do work with, I'll do all the design work initially with the choose like getting the block of land and making sure the design works and everything. I don't go to a working drawing stage. There are some projects that I have coming up actually that I will be doing through a working drawing stage with some things in New South Wales and Perth and South Australia. But usually the builders take over a certain time because they will have their in-house designers. So I'll just go over when they're finished, just cross-check with specifications and design guidelines just to make sure they all work. But no, there's been no pushback and everyone's been happy with that because everyone sort of that I've been working with has been working together to get the end product. So that the more eyes you can have on it, the less mistakes will be made in the end.
Yeah. When you say working drawings, do you mean going from concept to actual drawings, just to educate our listeners?
Yeah. So initial design phase, so just pretty much the floor plan, and then doing the floor plans and plus the elevations, any development applications through Shire, and then the actual working drawing, so the documentation that the builder will need to actually build the home.
So working drawings are normally payable by the investor to a designer or to a builder, or is it so? Is it the client engages the builder engages you to do working drawings, or is it the other way around? How does the
both
work?
So it's been both. So I've got some clients that I'm working with at the moment in New South Wales, WA, and South Australia that I'm sort of doing the complete documentation, so the design, working drawings, etc., because they wanted to do that. So then they own the plans, so they can take the plans to a couple builders and get quotes. So that's one way to do it. Or someone will go to a builder, and the builder will then come to me and ask to do the more the design and the sketches to make sure it all works, and then it will go to their internal team to do the working drawings.
Yeah. With some investors who jump in this process, do they come along to the table just talking to you with a provider or with an agent? Or, I just want to understand, in your line of process, do you talk to, on behalf of the client, the OTs or the SIL providers or the SDA providers to get a better gauge for the product's delivery? Because most of the time the investors have no idea. They're just following someone else. So do you get truly involved in that process?
I like to, yeah. I do. It's for one, I know that what I'm actually doing is right, which helps. So like I said before, the more eyes you can have on something, the better. So if I've got some feedback from SILs and SDAs, then that always helps. But the investor doesn't usually come with anything. One of them actually in Perth that I'm doing it's a really large corner of a triplex site that's going to be some high physical support homes. They're more of a developer. So they've come to me to do the drawings. I got referred through someone else for them, and then they will have their own SDA and SIL providers, and they will actually build the home. So it happens in different ways a lot, depending on where someone sits. So it sort of happens every different way.
Yeah. Do these developers that come to you that you work with, do they know the disability world, or are they at the mercy of SIL providers educating them to educate you? Because as you know, there's bare minimum compliance, there's good practice, and then there's bespoke, future-proof products. Minimum, average, and above average product. Do you give a lot of guidance to the developers who don't understand but want to proceed with the future-proof concept and making a much more better product than the norm?
In some aspects, yes. So the one that I'm dealing with in Perth, I'll use that again as an example. They've engaged the SDA assessor certifier at a very early stage. So I did some initial designs, and they went to the SDA to get some feedback on that at a very early stage. So they came back with a couple of things on the design, with a little bit of feedback, and then some future-proofing items to take into account as well, which don't really affect the design as such as now, but they will affect the specification and making sure the design has those items in it to accommodate that. So there's that as an example. The ones in Adelaide that I'm working with, we're going through from the very start to make sure specifications and everything is in line. And then we can go through items that will be extra over items to see if certain investors want to use that in their houses, and then happy to pay more for that.
I bring this up because I've been spending a lot of time the last few days talking with other providers and other staff in here. where, and the reason I'm saying this is because people being people, they just follow the guidance of SDA providers because they apparently know everything, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes certain providers go way overboard with we need hoists, we need extra large bathrooms, we need extra large bedrooms, we need a kitchenette, we need, and they brainwash is probably a harsh word, but they really influence the investors' spend and design and really go overboard, and that could also be a problem. I say this because
it does, because
I'm seeing one, if not two, big SDA providers pull out of the market in Queensland here, in Brisbane. Big one.
Because of...
I don't want to go too far into it, but when you're a wolf in sheepskin, trying to say the right things and make you believe that they're the right player in the market, then lo and behold, they really have other agendas.
Yeah.
As in developers / marketers / whatever. It's not in the best interest, of clients when they're spending way too much money and it just doesn't work out. And then they disappear and they don't even deliver the participants.
Yeah. Well, it's a very...
That's what I mean. Be very careful with product delivery and talk to various people to get the right information.
Yeah.
Just believe one person and then they tell you got to do something and then you do it. Then it ends up being an empty house,
No, it's dead. And it's a very fair point. You could go... It's like buying a car as such. You can buy it directly off the plan, or you can then add all these upgrades, and it's the same for a house. But what are those upgrades actually necessary? And so,
I know one provider, small provider in Brisbane. They were doing 5-bedroom group home HBSs back in the day, 2 years ago, and now they're all one tenant houses.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. It does. It even if you just think about it logically. Just if you had five people in a house, normally it's a crowded house. If you have 5 people that are in wheelchairs, they take up more space, bigger circulation spaces, all that. It just, if you think about it, it doesn't really make too much sense.
So my point is, when collaborating with other professionals, being the civil providers, SDA providers, the investor, the builder, the designer, the assessor, the certifier, it's good for people to really understand what they get themselves into, because this is $1 million investment.
Correct.
You should know what you're doing.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah. No, and it definitely is. And like you said before, there's a lot of people giving different instructions on X, Y, and Z. So it's probably add the X, Y, and Z information. What information do you take on board?
But Luke, in your line of work thus far, the last year and a half, what have you seen really work in the marketplace as an observer, and what have you seen not work? Because there's so many shocking stories, and there's also so many wonderful stories out there.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately,
your version.
Unfortunately, it's like a restaurant review. You usually hear the bad ones before you hear the good ones, and it's pretty similar in this space as well. But some good stories that you sort of hear is sort of designing and making. It's always nice to do like that. A triplex that I'm doing, that's on a big corner block. It's nice to have the assessor come back and say, well designed, there's good space, it has everything it needs, there's not much sort of feedback coming back from that. And with spaces and everything, and this is once again feedback from SDA providers, and this is from assessors and a lot of people, that making the house as livable as possible for the participants is the aim. So what I've heard and what everyone sort of seems to be doing is making the 2 participant homes have a bathroom themselves, an extra living space in your kitchen, dining, living, and a laundry. Making everything spacious, but not over the top spacious. And then so they all always have an extra living area. If they have friends or family come over, they can have their own space and go have a cup of tea and have a chat, and then have a little bit of privacy. You hear and see that working quite well. Like you said before, the big group homes that you still see, and the Robust is a very interesting space and very interesting in design as well. I've done a few smaller houses for Robust, and the feedback that I had from a few different people was originally when they'd have a Robust house, it would be the same as an improved livability home. So you have your living area, your 2 bedrooms, etc. But I've seen something worse that had 3 participants sharing a bathroom, your kitchen, dining, living, your OOA, and just no extra living space. So that can create a not very nice environment for everyone living in there, having no space, no privacy. And especially if people with robust needs, might need that space and might need that privacy. So I actually was at a barbecue, and I spoke to someone. They're saying, "Oh, what do you do for a job?" And I explained to them, and went, "Oh, another person in the NDIS space. And I said, oh, why do you say that? And they told me that they got sold by a marketer to do a 3-bedroom robust house. They had 2 bathrooms in there, the OOA, no extra living space. They got one person in pretty quickly and they thought, wow, this is really good. And they've never been able to get 2 other people in because the house is just not suited. So they've spent all this money on this house, this block of land, and they're only ever able to get one person. They've had it for a couple of years now. So you hear those stories and you sort of think, well, it's not the right information. It's not the right design that should have been looked at from the start.
Now, interesting in this topic case study here. If that house was designed correctly, 3-bed, 3-bath, 2-car with an extra living space called a breakout room, do you think this robust house would have got a second tenant?
It depends on, well, suppose there's a couple of factors in that. It's the participants themselves, if they're more inclined to have a house and share with someone. And if the house was sort of designed probably a little bit better, that had their own bathrooms and the breakout room was quite separate from the house and they had their own spaces a little bit more, you can see it sort of working a little bit better. But at the end of the day, it's if you can, and I'm sure there are 2 robust participants that can live together, but it would have been making that house just designed that little bit better to have the little bit more privacy.
Yeah, exactly. The opinion out there with robust, and I'm going off topic here, but one person we know, he says, oh, it's 99%/1%. 1% of participants in robust cannot share. 99% cannot share. That's one person opinion. Another person said 80-20. 80% cannot share, 20% can share. What do you think the stats are out there in the marketplace? From the small...
It's a very good question. It's
so number so far.
Yeah, it's so hard. I actually couldn't answer that.
No one can.
No one can. I don't know anyone that can because no one knows every single participant. If there was one person that knew every single participant that had SDA funding, then they would be able to answer it, but no one done. There's probably people that could have a look at some stats and everything and work it out. But everyone's so different. Everyone's needs are so different, and that's why it's such an interesting space.
I talk a lot to people about this topic, and someone, our last speaker, Brad, another provider, he said, "Oh, we've never seen anyone able to share robust." So interesting, okay. And then over the course of the next week or 2 weeks, I discovered that another provider from Sydney, she has 2 houses which are 2 robust participants in them. She also has another house in Sydney that needs to be built in somewhere, what's it called, in Burwood, with 3 robust participants, teenagers who can live together.
Yeah. See,
and then in Brisbane, another provider called Adapts, they have 3 robust participants in one house who can share. So it is possible, not impossible.
No,
and
everything's possible.
No one can give an answer because it depends on their behaviours. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah. And you might find it. You might take a while finding it. But what I've done, I've sort of got a project that I'm about to start in New South Wales that is more of it's a development with maybe trying to work out exactly on the block what was going to work, but do individual little houses for robust. So they each have their own little house and the OOAs and a shed. So, and I can see something like that working better than 5 people sharing a house.
As a villa, townhouse villa?
Yes.
So on this topic, triplex in Perth. Why did triplex happen? Why wasn't it 3 villas? Why were triplex?
Well, it's probably not really a triplex as such. It's 3 houses on a 1,200 square metre block. Because it's a big corner block, was able to get subdivided with all street frontages. So you got 2 facing one street and 1 facing the other street. Mm-hmm. So they're actually proper size houses. They're all about 200, and these ones are a little bit bigger. They're about sort of 230, 235 square metres each. So they actually work quite well.
So this little project in Sydney you're talking about, what are the sizes of the villas?
Still to be determined, depending on what sort of we're going to fit. I've done a little bit of research with the shires and houses, but I've done previous just little, like on blocks that were 200 square metres, clients that are looking to do just 1 bedroom, little 1 bedroom robust house. They were with a single garage. They were probably worked out about 110 square metres each.
And we've got how many of them on site? 3 or 4?
Yeah, about 3 or 4 still sort of to be determined.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
So, mate, are you working on very unique designs and all that stand out from the rest of the crowd?
Yeah, I've got a couple really nice ones I'm doing. I'll keep going back to this one's example, probably because it's the freshest one in my mind, but the one in Perth, it's on a really nice block with some really nice trees. So we've picked out a few trees to keep, but that sort of put a little bit of design constraints on the shape of the home. So one of them on the corners worked out quite nicely. It's built around this tree. It's got like a separate living area wing through an internal court, like in sort of internal sort of al fresco, and then the wing with the bedrooms on the side. And the other two are sort of, one of the middle one's a lot more conventional, and the other one's goes on an angle, so it's got this nice big internal courtyard that goes through the middle with the bedrooms off and a nice big open living area. The builder/developer wants to introduce some rammed earth construction as well, and some skillion roofs. So these will be sort of really, really nice homes. They will look really nice with having the rammed earth, and they want to do framed construction with some master wall cladding, something like that, and some different sort of cladding as well. So they will be quite aesthetically good looking and quite nicely designed with the natural trees and everything around as well. So looking forward to seeing those ones come to life.
Well, that's awesome. Mate, we actually have an event coming up in March in Sydney.
Oh, perfect. I would love that.
A whole bunch of providers, sales, OTs with large group. And we'd love to invite you along to meet and greet other providers and hear firsthand what they need.
Yeah, that would be unreal.
From the participant point of view, that'd be great to network and be part of the whole learning process to share with these many providers in the Campbelltown area. So Campbelltown's a location on the middle of March.
Beautiful. Yeah, I can definitely be able to make that.
For us to share what we're doing, designing, building, pipelining, and then hear from them what they all need in terms of construction, in terms of robust or HBS or FAs or ILs or whatever.
Yep.
It'd be nice to get out in the marketplace and share some collaborative work together, yeah.
Yeah, because the more information you can have on those things is better. Knowledge is key, I think, with this, and having as much as you can get definitely helps to give a product that's going to work at the end of the day.
And then also, if you're doing products, delivering products from a design point of view in the Sydney market, it will be good for them to hear from you that what you're helping put together as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it will work both ways.
Yeah. Mate, any final words of advice from you to our listeners who get given packages from marketers, stock standard, project builder, floor plan standards, advice to them how to pick out the rubbish from the goods? Because at the end of the day, they get a booklet, 2-3 page document, 900 grand, HBS, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 2 car, here's a floor plan. How does someone who's a mum and dad investor decipher, looking at a floor plan, know whether it's a good or a bad one? You tell me.
Yeah, that is a difficult question. I still see so many plans out there that it just makes me cringe looking at them, that this is what actually people are being given and being sold to, as when they're putting 900 to $1 million into an investment. My advice would be to don't just chat to one person, chat to a couple of people. Find someone in the design world that has SDA experience to get any sort of feedback. I know myself, it's sort of, I do enjoy things. If someone rang me and asked for it, can I have a look at this and take 10 minutes of my time, I wouldn't have an issue with that, and give my honest sort of feedback. Be very wary of the cheapest package you can find. Still have people I speak to and they ask, what's the cheapest package that you can offer? And I say back to them, I said, if the first question you're asking is what's the cheapest package you can offer, I don't think you should be investing in an SDA property. You're not looking at things like what's the best location, what's the best design, is there anything I should be implementing in the design to make it better for the participants. These are the questions you should be asking. If you want to have a successful property, you need to be putting that time and that effort into the start, not just building the cheapest property you can find that has just rooms that are just meeting specification, that have turning circles that are just able to get through on tiny blocks that, yeah, it's cheap. And yeah, the houses are finished nicely, but obviously a little bit more cheaper. But I say to everyone, the participants choose the house, and are they going to choose that? And people they do understand that, and everyone's only got so much to invest. But if you've got the money to invest it, and should you be investing in the SDA property if it's not going to be successful? And my answer is probably not.
I have an answer for you. Here's a bit of a script you can explain to an investor. I would say to them, don't get a small block, get a good size block. That would be 500-600 square meters. Okay, that's step number one. Number two is don't build a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1-car garage, small 190 square meter house. As an IL or a robust or HBS, that's just too small. People don't want to live in a box. They want to have their own space, their own breakout areas, not breakout rooms, breakout areas as in multimedia room, courtyard, patio, backyard, that kind of thing. So I would suggest you, if you're looking at the normal HPS routes, 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 2-car with a multimedia room, with private courtyards and all the separate bedrooms, extra storage space for the extra wheelchairs, extra wider hallways. So I'd go 1.5 metre wide or 1.4 metre wide, just in case you have the beriatric participants in the future.
I usually make them about 1.6 minimum anyway, 1.56, just so, because if you've got the turning circles on a wheelchair, they do need the space, and so they're not banging into walls and just missing the skirtings and the walls. It makes it a lot easier.
Make the HBS bedrooms extra larger than normal than you would. Consider possibly a kitchenette in one or two of the larger ones.
Yeah, is because I've seen that a few times, and I've had different feedback on the kitchenette in the bedrooms that they look nice when you go into it, but they just don't get used.
Maybe one, because sometimes you always have maybe I'll rephrase this. If you had a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom HPS, you might get one participant who just wants to hide away in their room, do their own thing, and don't want to associate with anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a maybe. Consider all the upgrades in the house to allow for adjustable bench tops, adjustable furniture, adjustable cupboards, wardrobe cupboards coming down.
Mm-hmm.
Just the extras, little things here and there that make a little big difference.
Yes.
What else can I say? Hydrotherapy pool in the backyard.
Wouldn't that be nice? I wouldn't mind one of those.
If the yard's big enough.
Yeah.
It all goes back to the yard space.
Yeah.
So by having extra courtyards, pool in the back, bigger patio, an inbuilt barbecue area there, just make it a nice retreat kind of thing.
Yeah, and it makes it a home then. And at the end of the day,
exactly.
If it makes it an actual home, not a house, people are more inclined to want to stay there and stay there long term.
Yeah. And this here, I'm talking about this conceptual design I'm giving you right now, that's probably 260 square meters, 260.
Yeah, it would be.
Right. Compared to a 210 one, which is too small.
Yeah.
So if the investor has the money and they want to future-proof, do the upgrades, get the bigger block, build a bigger house, do the bees knee, just bells and whistles. And there's no reason for them to move out of the house, ever.
No, they'll stay there forever.
And all this costs an extra $100,000, $200,000 anyway.
Yeah, and when the rent return is what it is, that's not staying around for too long as the debt.
Yep. So when you think about it, fire sprinklers too, Luke. Fire sprinklers. So all these bells and whistles, fire sprinklers as well. Mate, you're getting 200. And if it was a 4-bedroom house, maybe even 2-bedroom house, with the right location factor, you're looking at $200,000 rent here, $210,000 rent total. Minus the cost is down to 150 net on a $1.5 million purchase. That's 10% yield right there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people sort of seen a lot higher figures, and they're sort of forgetting that a normal investment property is, say, your 4.5, 5 to 6 maybe percent. So if you're building something like this and getting 10%, you're still way over. So if you're even sitting at 15, 16%, that's a huge return.
Yes. And the point is, do not buy in cheap areas.
No, definitely not. I still see so many people, there's still so many packages out there of areas where there's just marketers, builders have just really, really pushed certain areas, and there's just going to be an oversupply, and they're still doing it. And blocks of land are sub $200,000, but there's no infrastructure around those areas. There's no public transport. There's no shopping centres. There's no hospitals or anything like that. It's just not somewhere that's going to get chosen to live at.
Mate, and if the marketer says, "Oh, there's max taxes there," good luck. Wait 3 hours for a max taxi.
Oh no, good luck with that.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of empty houses coming back in the market. I just want to Grace in the office here. She's really concerned about the empty houses out there around Australia that are coming back on the market for sale. And they're in the wrong areas too.
They are, yeah. Well, I spoke to an SDA that I do some work with the other day, asking on some bits and pieces about Perth and a couple other cities, and he said what they've seen in Melbourne recently. Melbourne got pushed on a lot of outer suburbs with packages that people were buying, but now there's people building that. Now it's sort of all settled and people have had a little bit more of an idea. They're building closer to the city and closer to all the infrastructure. People are breaking leases out in the suburbs to go to these houses that are closer to everything.
Exactly. So, if you go cheap, you got to get a temporary tenant for a year or two, and that's it. Because they're always going to look for a better option. They always are.
Correct.
Yeah,
and especially when you go back to the design, and like you said, it's a tiny little house. It just meets instead of making something a little bit bigger and a little bit nicer.
And look, I want our listeners to understand that design is important. I mean, when you look at a Tesla car versus a halal Chinese-made car, you can feel the difference between the design aspects of it all. And that's the best way to explain to a listener who's an investor. Design is everything. The aesthetics of a product, be it a house or a car, is everything. Like the functionality of the house or the car is everything.
Yes, the functionality is very, very important.
And we all know a Tesla is future-proofed, and we know that a normal halal car is not future-proofed. So when you look at an SDA house, which is 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1-car garage with no communal bathroom, powder room for guests to use, right? It's just an inferior product. And by the way, back to my conceptual design I talked about to you earlier with my ideas there, to make it better, move the laundry room into the garage, or extending the garage room bigger. So the laundry room is there, and you can turn the former laundry room into an office.
Oh, yeah. Just a smaller office space.
Well, wait, the laundry room is now a office space. Or you make an extra large laundry room for 2 laundries. If participants don't want to share laundries.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you.
Laundry machines, the washing machine, because of COVID. And, some people are picky. Like, I don't want to share my fridge. I don't want to share my laundry.
Yeah, I do.
There it is right there.
Yeah.
People still can turn their, I've seen the actual provider turn their garage into an OOA office.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was in Cessnock in Hunter Valley, and the whole internal of the garage was vinyl flooring, 3 big desks, 3 big computers, and the whole garage was all full of supplies and storage and medical stuff.
Wonder if they have his office.
Yeah. So again, back to design. If you design the product appropriately for the market, and the SILs, who are the key people here, the SILs, they can function from this house. It's their business workplace, and they're happy. If they're happy, the participants are happy.
And that's the whole goal.
Yes. In life, there's the word happy wife, happy life. Well, in the end,
I get reminded of that numerous times.
In the NDIS world, happy provider, happy participants.
Yeah, so true.
So, everyone thinks, there's a provider bedroom. Well, they don't live there. It's just a bedroom for them to have a rest. But really, is the OOA office, be it an actual office or somewhere else, is it an actual office? So design is very important. And I see a lot of this going around the country, being other builders and developers and designers. And I see how they do it differently in different areas. And it's just good to be open-minded from an investor's point of view to deliver a product differently from the norm, because if you're not different, if you don't stand out, you will be empty in due course.
Yeah, definitely. That's why it's good having a bit of a background working with architects and things like that. So if you have a client that's got a little bit more money and they want to put a little bit flair into it, then you can definitely do that and make it a really, really nice house.
Exactly. And one more thing as well, Luke, having a wraparound concrete around the whole house.
Yes.
Allows them to hang out in the backyard and roll around and enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah.
I've seen some HBS houses with nothing but an alfresco. That's it.
Yeah.
And they can't go anywhere. It's all grass. You can't go on grass with your wheelchair.
Yeah. Always try to sort of do the al fresco area. You've got the undercover area, but extend the paving or concrete past that. So there's got a little bit more space because, like you said, they're not going on the grass, so being able to have a little bit more room. If it's a nice sunny day to get out of the shade and into the sun.
I really do encourage our listeners who are investors, wherever you are in Australia, if you get a chance to go visit an open home, which is a NDIS house, talk to the local providers, understand what they need. Because unless you talk to them, you will never know. You're listening to a marketer or an agent trying to brainwash you into buying their rubbish product,
Yeah.
And I challenge everyone out there, go meet a disabled person, hear their story, understand what their needs are, and talk to the provider. So unless you hear the exact requirements from the horse's mouth, don't believe anyone else.
That's a very good point. I was chatting to someone the other day who I work with that interviewed a disabled person that was in a wheelchair, and the topic of fire sprinklers came up in a high physical support homes. And he said, well, put it this way, for me to get out of my bed, out the front door, it takes me 22 minutes. So if you
Burn alive in 5 minutes,
if there's a fire and there's no fire sprinklers, then unfortunately I don't think he's making it out the door. So little things like that you can learn very quickly from speaking to someone like you said.
I know my podcast has been beating the drum of fire sprinklers for the last 2 years now, and you'd be surprised that some people around Australia who are so-called experts, right, in SDA, say the words, "Oh, don't worry about it, it's okay. We're meeting compliance, we're fine. It's minimum standards." Like, dude, it's just 30 grand, 40 grand for fire sprinkler. Just spend it. Recommend your client to spend it so that someone doesn't die in a fire.
Yeah, exactly. I always say there's extra electrical. There's a lot of extra electrical in a house, a high physical support home. Chances of fire are slim, but there's a higher chance in a house like that than a normal house. So for peace of mind and doing the right thing in that investment, then I think it definitely should be done.
My understanding is New South Wales or Sydney Council or Sydney councils have mandated Class 3 and fire sprinklers now. Is that correct?
Well, that's what, I have heard that. And there's, from a few people that I've spoke to in Western Australia, building surveyors and SDA providers that don't really have a say on, SDA assessors don't really have a say on the class of building. But it's not a grey area to me. I think it's pretty solid in stone. Under the NCC, a residential care building is a Class 3 building, and a Class 3 building needs fire sprinklers. If you look at a high physical support home, the way that is built and what's included and what it's actually structured to be, it's 100% a residential care building. So that is a Class 3 building. So the Class 3 building needs fire sprinklers. It's pretty sort of simple to me. So there's building surveyors and other companies out there that are doing it the other way around. They're sort of saying, no, it's Class 1 or Class 1A. So they're not doing it. So like I said, that area is a little bit of a grey area. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in a year or two if there's any audits or anything like that.
Luke, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your contribution to this 41-minute podcast.
Really, that went quick.
And we look forward to definitely doing a lot more work with you in Adelaide and New South Wales and WA as well from a product perspective and also a design perspective as well, yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for your time, Min. I appreciate being invited on the podcast. It was great to have a chat.
We'll link your website to the bottom of the summary of this podcast so that if anyone wants to contact you directly, they can just go to the website and just contact you from there, okay?
Which is under construction at the moment. I had to get some bits and pieces sorted on it, so they probably won't be working, but I've emailed my website person today to see if we can get a hurry up on that.
So when will you relaunch your...
Oh, good question. I'm hoping to get it up as soon as possible. So hopefully she gets back to me today with a time frame.
So will it be www.lukekelleher.com?
www.lukekelleherdesigns.com.
Thank you so much, Luke.
Great.
See you later.
Thanks, Min. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.